This is just a really tough one to know where to start because there's an awful lot in this shoe to pick out. There's the materials, they're pumping up to the highest level, highest quality materials. There's a position of the branding, not just the normal Nike branding, but then switching the branding out for unique Ken Griffey Jr. branding, but not Ken Griffey Sr. branding, because that comes tomorrow when we get into the Air Force Ones, which are Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. Sneakers, cramming it all together in there. So, and there's also the story of me doing these Air Max 90s, the fifth day in a row doing Air Max 90s, totally unplanned. There were two corks that I did, and then it was like, oh look, there's also two polka dot ones as well, and now we've got these Ken Griffey Juniors coming down the line too. So there's a ton of stuff going on, and you know what, I'm going to dive right in and say, bang, look, there's a special, the Swedish Swing hang tag that hangs right off the side to give you an idea of just what the quality is like on these guys, the extra hits, the uniqueness that is an absolutely cracking shoe coming out on June the 18th, which isn't too far away. So if you want to know more about the materials, the branding, the design, the construction, the uniqueness that is this shoe, stick around as we take a close-up look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Max 90 backwards baseball cap. This is a Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel. Tokyo Bara 23 Sneaker Channel des Mainichi Absurdo de Mainichi Mite Kudasai. And every single day from Tokyo, Japan, I bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And in the spotlight today is these Nike Air Max 90s for the fifth day in a row. Like seriously, the backwards cap, a signature of Ken Griffey Jr., one of the best baseball players of all time, and I can't wait, to be honest, to get into tomorrow's shoe when we lock it up with the Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. Air Force Ones, because they're a great looking shoe, but also it's a great story about father and son playing for the Mariners for 2 seasons, I think 1990 and 1991, if my research is well remembered. But we're going to park that. We're not going to get to those Air Force Ones yet. We'll get to them tomorrow, but today it's all about these Air Max 90s, and there's a ton, honestly, there's a ton of stuff going on in this shoe, and it's all about Ken Griffey Jr., one of the greatest baseball players of all time, retired I think in 2010, and here we are 11 years later. Why is he current? He's current because he's moved into the front office at baseball. I think he's a special advisor to the commissioner. I think that's the title he's going by. And with that move back into baseball, back into the front office of baseball, Nike are jumping on that and bringing out a bunch of his signature sneakers from back in the day, but also a bunch of themed sneakers that go with his career. And that's what we're looking at today, a Ken Griffey Jr. Air Max 90, and a tie-up with all that is he and also all that is the teams that he played for. So let's get into it, and I'll try and remember everything to tell you about these shoes, and I'm really concerned that I'm not going to remember everything. So fingers crossed I get there, but if I don't and miss something out, 1,000 apologies. So I'm going to start with the main things first, because I think it's the stuff I shouldn't forget. And the main things I think are up on the tongues and on the insole, so hopefully the old green screen's churning out some great photographs for you guys to have a look at them. And the insoles are cool. It's great to see those details on the backward baseball cap and the 24 that was his playing number, but I've got to say it's the tongues that steal the show, and it's mainly because there really isn't a standard branding on insoles. They get a lot of treatment in a lot of different ways, whether it's the design or the branding or the hits, or if it's a collaboration, the branding of the collaboration is tying up. The insoles get a lot of treatment, less so the tongue branding. Tongue branding is kind of standard on shoes, and when they do play with it, it makes it even more unique, and they've definitely done that here. And again, like I say, hopefully the old green screen's holding it together, and you can see what I'm talking about. So we've already had a look at the main hit, which is those backward baseball caps inside the insole and on the tongues, and also that hang tag that we already talked about with the sweetest swing. But not too far away from that is a question that I have for you guys out there. Both these and tomorrow's Air Force Ones have this patterned aglets on the end of the laces that I don't know what they mean, but I'm sure they mean something, because the people out there are taking the time to actually take a photograph of it and sort of put it into the promotional materials or the official pictures that have come along the line from Nike. So there must be a reason for it, but I don't really know what it is. I'm quite a big baseball fan, to be honest. Here in Japan, baseball is actually quite a big sport. It might be the most popular spectator sport. There's 12 professional professional teams in the highest leagues, and then maybe soccer though, because J1 and J2 probably have more teams than baseball does, but I would say baseball's the biggest sport here in Japan, and then after that probably soccer. So it's a big sport. It's kind of different to American baseball because it's a very interactive fan affair where it's all singing and dancing and musicians and all that kind of playing in the background, which is not so common at American baseball stadiums where it's quite quiet until the bottom of the ninth, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, so I know a bit about baseball. I've followed it for quite a long time. It's a sport I particularly like. But then when it comes to these aglets, I don't know what they're trying to say about baseball or the Mariners or Ken Griffey Jr. But what I do know is that the second biggest signature on the shoe, which I think comes after those caps on the tongues and the insoles, is right up there at the top of the ankle. I think I'm right in saying only on the lateral side you can see a couple of panels stitched together with that classic baseball stitching that you would see on a baseball. It kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, an alternating switch stitch or something like that. I have no idea how to describe stitching, but I do know it when I see it, if you know what I'm saying. We already had the Nike Air Max 90 black football, which had sort of American football hits on there, and then here we have a baseball, and very clearly the baseball stitching that you'd see on a baseball. And that's where we get our first hit of red on these guys, so it makes sense to go around to the back and see our second big hit of red on the heels, where you can see the white branding panel with the red branding in it. But there really isn't much more detail in there, but below that is a very dark panel material which looks very simple until you look at it like this. And I'm going for tumbled leather. If I've got that wrong, I apologize. It doesn't really matter, because what does matter is you can see here it's quality leathers. It's not just your standard leathers, not a smooth leather, not a mesh, not a suede. It's some kind of textured leather, and I'm going with tumbled leather, and that's an absolutely class piece of material to make your sneakers out of. So right beside that red branding on the heel, you've got those quality tumbled leathers just below that. And then just below all that, you've got what I call the Arrowhead Air unit on the side of these guys. And within that Arrowhead Air unit, you've got the actual Air unit itself. And when you look through it into the inside, you get a hit of red going on the inside of there. So that little hit of red that you have stitched up on the top of the ankle with the baseball stitching is starting to be repeated quite a lot, more than you'd expect on heels now in that Air unit. And then if you go all the way forward to the little swoosh that you see on the toe, very rare in Air Max 90s to see a swoosh there. And usually when a swoosh goes there on Nikes, and I'm not just talking about Air Max 90s, I'm talking about Air Force Ones as well, for example, a little swoosh towards the front end of the shoe usually signifies higher sort of quality materials in the build and the construction, and that's definitely the case in these guys here. And then we got to flip them upside down and have a look at the outsoles, because there's three colours that play on the outsoles. If I remember correctly, it's red and teal for the two main teams that Ken Griffey Jr. played for, which was the Cincinnati Reds and the Mariners. I think he also did a little stint, I think it was at the White Sox, I think the Chicago White Sox, but not a big stint there at all. I mean, the Cincinnati Reds and the Mariners being the main teams, so the Reds and then the teal on there representing both of those, and then black on the rest of the outsole, sort of bringing it all together. So I think that's everything about this shoe, and I'm just trying to run through in my mind all the different things I looked at when I researched this one. As you know, I research the shoes every single day before talking to you guys. It's not just random stuff that I'm just like out there, and I think I've covered all the main hits on these guys, but like I say, there's just so many, and to be honest, there's more on tomorrow's Air Force Ones because it's the father and son tie-up, and so all the stuff that we're talking about today, you kind of carry it forward to those Air Force Ones and then add a little bit of extra spice. So looking forward to talking about those tomorrow. But I think, like I say, I think we're done with these guys today, so I'm going to wrap that one up. Thank you guys for checking out the content, and I do this every single day. We're churning through the 900s, trying to get to 1,000 consecutive days on YouTube. We've done over 900 without a single day missed. Not a single day missed. And we're going to keep that going. And because I'm going to keep that going, that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.